I accidentally brought home a fake cancer diagnosis from my movie set. At dinner, my cold, contract wife, Chloe, suddenly looked at me and asked how many months I had left. I figured she was referring to our 5-year marriage contract, so I said a little over a month. She went quiet. After that, I slipped away abroad for further studies. 6 months later, I returned. A friend told me Chloe was losing her mind searching for her dead husband, yelling, "I want him dead or alive. Tear this entire city apart, but find him for me." Miss Sterling, at dinner, I had told her food was ready, but she just stared at that fake cancer report, totally clueless that it was just a silly acting prop I brought home. Chloe. We snapped back to reality. I had cooked 3 of her favorite dishes, but she had absolutely no appetite tonight. After picking at her food, she looked up and asked how much time was left. I was surprised, but then I figured she meant our 5-year marriage contract. "A little over a month," I answered. I had always known this day would come. After all, when we first got married, Chloe's secretary had sternly warned me that I was only chosen to relieve family pressure, and because I looked like her first love, who had gone abroad to study 5 years ago. In other words, I was just a placeholder substitute. Now that her first love was returning to the country, her sudden contract question was probably her way of telling me to make room for him. After I spoke, I noticed her slight frown. Sighing inwardly, I said, "Do not worry, Miss Sterling. I will pack up and leave when the time comes," without making a scene. Honestly, I got it. He was the guy she loved for 5 years, so of course she did not want him seeing another man around her. Chloe had been decent to me, so I did not want to make this hard. I told her I would move out quickly, though finding an apartment in Chicago on short notice was tough. "So, could you give me 3 days? I will be gone by then, I promise." She snapped back, asking if I was really that eager to leave. For some reason, she looked deeply annoyed. Her expression went dark. Standing up, she said coldly, "I never told you to move, you stay right here." Without another word, she walked off to her study, leaving me totally baffled. I just stared at her empty chair, completely lost. Chloe rarely spoke to me unless it was business. Her bringing up our marriage contract today meant she wanted things settled quickly, right? I had offered to walk away, which should have made her happy, so why was she so angry? After sitting there and thinking it through, I realized what was going on. She was a billionaire executive, and contracts were sacred to her. She probably worried about her public image and wanted to honor the deal until the very last day. She was always like that. Cold as she was, she never broke her word. Still, her honoring the contract did not mean I should overstay my welcome. I needed to find a new apartment and pack up early anyway. After cleaning up dinner, I grabbed a folder off the coffee table and headed to my bedroom. Filming for my new show started in 3 days, and I desperately needed to study my lines. I opened the folder and froze. I had accidentally brought that medical diagnosis home. It was just a prop for my character. My manager, Jessica, must have slipped it into my script. After dinner, I sat at my desk, focused entirely on my work. I have always been a dedicated actor who gives 100% of my effort to every single role, even though my role this time was small, just a background character in a cheap web series. I still poured my heart into fully understanding my character's mind. By the time it reached 9 o'clock, I checked my watch and headed to the kitchen. Chloe was an absolute workaholic. Since running her family business, she was always so busy that she constantly skipped meals, resulting in terrible stomach problems. When I found out, I spent months consulting top medical specialists and reading stacks of research books until I finally came up with a special herbal broth recipe. Miraculously, her pain vanished. From then on, I made it my personal mission to brew her a bowl every single night, even when she was out late at her corporate office. I delivered it without fail for 5 straight years. If being a contract husband was a real job, I was the perfect employee. Soon, the warm broth was ready. I ladled some into a bowl and walked to her study door. As I reached it, I heard her talking on the phone. Her voice was unbelievably soft and sweet, a tone I had never heard before. It was hard to believe this cold woman could sound so gentle. "Are you coming home early?" she said. "Okay, I will pick you up. Look, I told you, He and I are just a contract marriage. In 5 years, I haven't even let him hold my hand. It ends in a month. Then I will explain everything to him." I stood outside, waiting for her to hang up before knocking. She opened it. "Here is some hot broth, Miss Sterling. Please drink it while it is fresh," I said, setting the bowl down. I turned to go, but she suddenly asked if I had any wishes. I paused, genuinely surprised, and then gave her a warm smile. I knew deep down Chloe was incredibly generous. After taking charge of her family corporate empire, she had quietly funded several local elementary schools and charities. Maybe she felt guilty about our contract ending and wanted to pay me off. "No thank you, Miss Sterling," I said with a gentle shake of my head. "You paid me $5 million upfront 5 years ago, and you have given me so many expensive gifts since. It is already more than enough. I honestly have no demands, but thank you." "Anyway," Chloe stared at me in silence. Just as I turned, she spoke up. "I know a world-renowned lung specialist. He is highly respected for treating respiratory issues. I have already reached out to him," she said. "I will send you his details." Hearing this touched my heart. 5 years ago, the orphanage I grew up in burned down in a terrible fire. Our director, Mr. Peterson, ran into the flames to rescue us. He suffered severe burns and permanent lung damage from the smoke. That was the real reason I signed this marriage contract. I needed cash for Mr. Peterson's medical bills and to rebuild our home. I never told Chloe because I figured she would not care. I was wrong. She must have investigated me behind my back. "Thank you, Miss Sterling," I said, genuinely touched. The next morning, I woke up early and cooked an amazing breakfast. While waiting for her, I stood in the living room, rehearsing my lines. At 8:20, Chloe walked out, fully dressed. I had to admit, she was gorgeous. Every outfit she wore looked like designer fashion on her. "Breakfast is ready," I said. "I warmed some milk for you, too. There are a few different options, so take your pick." Chloe gave a small nod and sat down. She ate with refined elegance, as expected of a wealthy heiress with a world-class education. Every single movement she made had this effortless, quiet pose that was mesmerizing to watch. She loved her peace and quiet, so I decided not to rehearse my dialogue there. As I started walking back to my bedroom, she suddenly stopped me. "Hey, I booked an appointment with Dr. Evans. He is speaking at a medical conference nearby today. Just head over and ring him up directly." I nodded, thanking her sincerely, and she quietly went back to her meal. While she finished eating, I did my hair and got dressed. Soon, the click of the front lock meant she had left for work. I walked out to hail a ride to the hospital, but as I pulled up my phone, a sleek, white Porsche Panamera rolled up. The window slid down, revealing Chloe. "Hop in. I will drop you off," she said. I stood there, completely shocked. I knew how precious this vehicle was to her. It was the cheapest car she owned, but it was a birthday present from her ex, and she guarded it like gold. She had a fleet of multi-million-dollar sports cars she could not care less about. But this one, she babied it, terrified of a single scratch. No man was ever allowed inside, and that included me. "It is no trouble, Miss Sterling. I can grab a cab. If I dirtied this car, I could never afford the repairs." Chloe's brow furrowed instantly. "Get in." I stood there, jaw dropped, under her freezing glare. I managed to stammer a quick thank you and climbed inside. The silence in the car was heavy, until Chloe shattered the quiet, her words striking a sudden panic in my chest. "When did you find out?" Assuming she meant Mr. Peterson, I replied, 2 years ago." Hearing that, her perfect eyebrows drawn tight. "Why did you not tell me sooner?" I was totally lost. She was talking more today than she usually did in a whole year, but assuming she meant well, I said, "Miss Sterling, you are always so busy. I did not want to bother you with this." Her voice sharpened with irritation. "Even if this is a contract marriage, we are legally husband and wife. You should not hide things like this." She sighed deeply. "If you need help, call me." 30 minutes later, the car pulled up outside Northwestern Memorial Hospital. "I have an early meeting, so I cannot go inside. Listen to the doctors and get the care you need. If you need money, call." I thanked her from the bottom of my heart. Chloe gave me a final look and sped off. Stepping inside, I made my way to the third bed. Lying there was a man in his 60s, his face deeply scarred by fire. Even after several reconstructive surgeries, the heavy scarring remained. Still, the old man was in high spirits, his face lighting up when he saw me. "Ethan, did I not tell you that your job is what matters? You should not waste your days keeping an old man company." "Mr. Peterson, I tracked down a lung specialist. He is actually here for a medical conference today. I will get him to examine you later." I sat by his side, peeling an apple. I was only halfway finished when a team of doctors arrived on their rounds, led by a tall female doctor. Even with a mask on, her eyes revealed her striking beauty. This was Dr. Emily Carter, a brilliant specialist at Northwestern and the one managing Mr. Peterson's care. "Ethan, you are here early today, Dr. Carter." I quickly stood up to greet her, feeling immense gratitude for how wonderfully she had cared for Mr. Peterson over the years. Emily pulled me aside quietly. "Ethan, are things tight right now? The treatment fund is completely empty. If you need financial help." I knew exactly what she was trying to say. I was completely broke. The $5 million Chloe settled on me was long gone. And every dollar I made over the last 2 years went straight to medical bills and the group home. I thought about asking Chloe for a loan, but she owed me nothing. Honestly, she had been incredibly generous, and I just could not ask. "Dr. Carter, do not worry, I will figure out a way to pay the bills." I gently declined her help. Emily had done far too much already, and I hated the thought of burdening her. She sighed, knowing me too well. After all this time, she understood my stubborn nature. I might appear quiet and agreeable, but I was fiercely proud. "Fine, but if you need anything, promise you will ask. Anytime. Unless you do not count me as a friend." "Of course I do. You are my only friend. If I need help, you will be my first call." Emily blushed deeply. Behind her medical mask, her heart started racing as she looked up at me. "He is already down the hall and you are still staring. Watch out, your eyes might fall out." A hand landed on Emily's shoulder. She spun around to see the mischievous grin of her best friend, Catherine. "What are you talking about?" Emily hissed, shooting her a sharp glare. "Nobody else notices, but I do. Your eyes melt when you look at him," Catherine teased mercilessly. Emily's face turned beet red. "Be quiet. We are just having a normal, professional conversation. It is strictly a doctor and family relationship. It is not what you think." "Oh, please, do you actually believe that? The way you have looked after Mr. Peterson these past few years, it is like he is your own grandfather. No doctor goes this far unless they are auditioning to be the grandson's wife. Seriously, Emily, if you like him, just make a move." "Who says guys have to ask first? He is an absolute catch, incredibly handsome, kind, and thoughtful. Plenty of people from that orphanage visit, but the others just bring gifts and leave. He is the only one who has spent years caring for him day and night." Catherine spoke with real sincerity. "These days, a heart like his is incredibly rare. So what if he is broke? Your family has more than enough money." A soft, thoughtful look settled over Emily. She remembered the day years ago when I had knelt before her, begging. My eyes had been frantic, filled with desperate tears as I begged her to save Mr. Peterson. Many from the orphanage had gathered, but they only cared about their lost belongings. While some showed mild concern for Mr. Peterson, I was the only one entirely consumed by his survival. From that day on, she saw me by his bedside every single day, day after day, without fail. They say long illnesses drain even the most devoted family, but Emily never saw a speck of irritation on my face. That pure sincerity deeply moved her, prompting her to give Mr. Peterson extra attention. Over time, we grew close. But the turning point in our bond was a dangerous incident that occurred a year ago, involving a patient's angry family. After an elderly man died of natural causes, nearly 8 of his relatives blamed the hospital and the attending doctors, screaming about malpractice and demanding cash. When talks broke down, the mob cornered Emily in the dark parking garage. One of them actually whipped out a blade. At the absolute worst possible moment, I stepped in, shielding her body with mine. I took the knife strike and spent a whole month recovering. Shaking off the memory, Emily smiled sadly. "Do not say things like that. He is married." "What?" Catherine gasped. "But in all these years, why has his wife never shown up? She is always busy with her career. What a waste. A sweet guy like him is a Total catch, whoever she is, she must be incredibly lucky to have him. Catherine felt a wave of disappointment. She had planned to pursue him herself if Emily would not. She never imagined he was taken. Emily felt a dull ache in her chest. Peering through the small window, she watched me laughing and chatting with Mr. Peterson inside his room. She found herself drifting off. The day progressed quietly. Thanks to Chloe calling ahead, my consultation with Dr. Evans went perfectly. After the routine checkup was finished, Dr. Evans confirmed that Mr. Peterson could recover fully, though it would require a very pricey operation. Thrilled by the good news, I felt amazing all afternoon. When I returned home, Chloe was still out. This was completely normal. Out of 365 days a year, she was away for more than half. She either worked late or slept at her desk. I knew she kept her distance on purpose. She remained utterly loyal to her first love, holding on to his memory for 5 years. Aside from mandatory corporate events, she kept away from all men, including me, her husband in name only. Around 9 that evening, I finished simmering some warm broth, hailed a taxi, and brought it to her office building, Sterling Tower, a towering 80-story skyscraper. Walking inside, the grand lobby looked like a royal palace. I stood in awe of the Sterling Group's massive fortune, which had only grown more successful since Chloe took charge. Standing there, I felt completely small and out of place, an overwhelming sense of insecurity quietly washing over me. At home with Chloe, I never felt this way, but standing inside her massive corporate office, the sheer distance between our worlds hit me. Just then, her secretary, Sarah, approached. She stepped out of the elevator in high heels, extending a pale, elegant hand. I muttered a quick thank you and passed her the thermos, but as I turned to go, she stopped me. "Julian is coming back early. Maybe tomorrow afternoon," she said. Julian Van Sethe, first love Chloe had been pining over for 5 years. Sarah warned me that to avoid any trouble, I should probably pack up and leave Miss Sterling's place as soon as possible. I simply nodded, telling her I was already hunting for an apartment. My easy response caught her off guard, and she stared. She knew about our fake marriage, but not my real motive. I needed cash for Mr. Peterson's surgery and to rebuild our old foster home. To her, I was just a gold-digging pretty boy. She had always looked down on me, treating me like absolute garbage. She probably expected me to put up a fight to stay, but instead, I was already packing before anyone even had to ask. "That is good," she said. "Saves me the trouble of explaining things. You know, Miss Sterling has only ever loved Julian. That has not changed over all these years." This might sound incredibly harsh, but do not get any ideas. "A frog can never marry a princess," she added coldly. "I assume you know your place. Once you leave, do not bother Miss Sterling again. It will only complicate things." She is too kind to say these words herself, so I have to do it for her. Hearing that, I clenched my fists, frustration boiling inside me. That after a long pause, I forced myself to relax and nod. What right did I have to be angry? This was just a business deal. "I understand," I said. "Please tell Miss Sterling I know my place and have never had any silly thoughts. I will pack up and leave immediately." With that, I turned around. I hurried away. Sarah watched me go, feeling a tiny pinch of guilt, wondering if she had been too cruel. She, Chloe, and Julian had all been college classmates and close friends. She had watched their beautiful romance unfold, which made her despise me even more as a freeloading intruder. Her warning was entirely her own idea, a desperate attempt to force me out. She figured I was sensible enough to make things easy for everyone. On my way back, I realized I needed to pack up and get out immediately, so I stopped to buy a massive suitcase. I started packing the moment I got through the door. By the time everything was ready, it was already noon the following day. Still, I felt I owed Chloe a proper goodbye before leaving. I waited until past 6 in the evening, but her car never showed. Unsure if she was coming back at all, I finally grabbed my phone and texted her, asking if she would be home tonight. A long time later, her blunt reply came back. "I am busy." Shrugging it off, I kept typing. I explained that I was fully packed and ready to move out tonight. "Since you are occupied, I will just say goodbye here. I left the house keys and my special broth recipe on the table. I am free over the next few days if you want to sign the divorce papers. I did not expect another text. I put my phone away, gave the entire apartment one final scrub, and then hauled my heavy suitcase down the stairs. Staring back at the place I had called home for nearly 5 years, a deep sadness washed over me. You naturally get attached to a place, and I knew that this time, I would likely never return. Taking a deep breath, I swung the door open and immediately froze. Standing right in front of me was Chloe, looking absolutely furious. My voice caught in my throat, leaving me completely speechless. In our entire 5 years together, I had never seen her look so dark. She was usually the picture of elegance, cool, sophisticated, and completely aloof. Even when she was upset, she had never lost her composure like this. I was totally bewildered, desperately racking my brain to see if I had messed up. I retraced my steps. I had followed her instructions perfectly. She wanted me gone, and I was leaving tonight. Why was she so angry? Was it because I was slipping out without a proper goodbye? It did feel pretty disrespectful. After all, she was basically my employer, and just vanishing like that was highly unprofessional. A wave of embarrassment hit me. I am so sorry, Miss Sterling, I said. I should have told you in person before leaving. I had no idea why she was back, but maybe she was worried I had stolen something. The house was packed with valuables, especially the keepsakes Julian had given her. I knew how much she cherished them, like that luxury watch worth tens of thousands of dollars. It sat in a custom display box worth hundreds of thousands inside her study. The entire mansion was filled with millions in art and antiques, and none of it was locked up. Since I had easy access to everything, her suspicion made sense. I quickly spoke up. Miss Sterling, I only packed my own clothes and personal items. I can open my bag for you to inspect, or wait while you check the house inventory. Is that the kind of person you think I am? She snapped. I froze, instantly cursing my big mouth. I should have kept my thoughts to myself. Accusing her of that made her look incredibly petty and cheap. I scrambled to backtrack. Miss Sterling, I did not mean it like that. Go back inside, Chloe commanded, cutting me off coldly. Then she strode past me into the house. Watching her take such aggressive, heavy strides left me momentarily dazed. Her walk was usually incredibly elegant, smooth, and graceful. But right now, her heavy strides practically radiated pure fury. Totally baffled, I grabbed my suitcase and followed her. I figured she wanted me back inside to inspect my luggage in private. After all, a high-profile CEO could not be seen doing that in public. I had to respect her dignity. Once we were inside, I immediately unzipped my suitcase. 5 years ago, I arrived with nothing but a few cheap rags. But the clothes packed in here now were different. I had bought them later, and they were expensive. Not because I was flashy, but because dressing poorly would embarrass Chloe. Plus, as an actor, keeping up appearances was crucial. In show business, image is everything. Aside from clothes, I had some waxing textbooks, my laptop, and 2 expensive watches Chloe had gifted me. The cheaper of the 2 was worth well over $10,000, a birthday present from her, but she did not even glance at the bag. Instead, her icy glare locked onto me, leaving me incredibly uncomfortable. A nervous sweat broke out across my back. Being stared down by such a powerful, gorgeous woman was terrifying. Did she genuinely believe I had stolen some of her expensive jewelry? I could not blame her. I was broke, and who could resist that kind of temptation? Clearing my throat, I mutter, Miss Sterling, would you like to check my bag? Ethan, are you actually enjoying this? She spat. What? I blinked, meeting her furious gaze. Take your things back to your room, she commanded, turning sharply toward her study. She slammed the door shut. I stood there, utterly baffled. Was she ordering me to unpack my bags just so she could do an inventory check? True, Chloe was a massive business tycoon and a brilliant corporate genius, but at home, she was a total scatterbrain who constantly misplaced her belongings. She owned so many luxury items, she probably forgot half of them existed. Doing a full search would probably take her hours. I stood there in the hallway, agonizing over whether to walk out or stay. Finally, I sighed, hung my head in defeat, and dragged my suitcase back to my bedroom. I decided to wait for her to finish her search. If she lost something and blamed me, I could even go to jail. I didn't even ask if she had eaten. He was in a terrible mood. Julian was coming back tomorrow afternoon, and Chloe might bring him home. Even though I shouldn't have feelings for her, watching them, being all affectionate right under my nose and getting intimate, would be pure torture. Was I destined to endure this torment? Whatever. I took her money, so I guess a little suffering is part of the deal. I tossed and turned, barely knowing when I suddenly drifted off. The next morning, I slept in for the first time in forever, waking up after 9. Chloe was already gone, leaving me completely lost on what to do or where to go. I didn't even know if she finished her stock count last night. I wanted to call, but I lacked the courage, remembering how furious she got when I brought it up last night. Worst of all, if she brings Julian home tonight, I'll just find an excuse to book a hotel room and give them space. I spent the whole day inside studying my script, and before I knew it, it was past 5 in the evening. My mind started to wander. Julian had to be back by now. Chloe has missed him for so long, she must be thrilled. What are they up to right now? Just thinking about this, I couldn't help but spiral. Sometimes I felt deeply insecure, especially next to a high-caliber man like Julian. He didn't just come from a prestigious family and look incredibly handsome, but he was also a massive star with a supposedly great personality. He was flawless. Compared to him, I was just an orphan, a struggling B-list actor who only landed minor roles, completely outmatched on every single level. No wonder a stunning, powerful CEO like Chloe was so obsessed with him. I wouldn't say I had deep romantic feelings for her, but at that exact moment, I felt a pang of envy. Checking my phone, I saw Sarah had posted a picture of Julian and Chloe sharing a cozy dinner at a restaurant. I had to admit, he was truly handsome. Even to another man, he was flawless, and next to Chloe, they looked like the perfect match. The caption read, "After all this time, it is still you, shipping this couple for 100 years. I tried to look away, but I kept staring at the screen. Chloe was beaming in the photo, showing a soft, gentle sigh I had never once seen from her before. So she actually knew how to smile. It was just reserved for the man she loved. I was merely her paid employee, never worthy of that warmth. I tossed my phone aside, utterly defeated. My mind was a mess of tangled emotions. Giving up on cooking, I just ordered takeout. Chloe probably wouldn't even come home tonight. She was always so protective of her public reputation. With me playing the third wheel here, she definitely wouldn't bring him back. They would probably just book a hotel room to rekindle their romance. I was busy eating my takeout when a knock suddenly rattled a front door. I was deeply confused. My dinner had already been delivered, so who could it be at this hour? Building management. I walked over and swung the door open, and froze in shock. It was Chloe. Why was she here? Shouldn't she be at a hotel with Julian, pouring her heart out? I peeked past her, but she was completely alone. I didn't see Julian. What are you staring at? She asked, frowning. Nothing. Why are you back? I blurted out. She snapped. This is my house. Of course I should be back. That wasn't what I meant. Her long-lost love was back, and they had years to catch up on. Shouldn't they be in a hotel enjoying some private time? I didn't dare say those thoughts aloud, so I just offered an awkward smile and let her in. I had a feeling I knew what was going on. Chloe was proud and deeply traditional. Her pride wouldn't let her give herself to him on their very first reunion. I always knew that even though everyone knew she was married, plenty of high-caliber men had relentlessly pursued her over the years, but she always kept them at arm's length, avoiding close contact and any hint of scandal. After years of separation, she and Julian were probably still a bit awkward with each other. Once they got reacquainted, she would likely open up completely. You didn't cook, you're eating this? She asked, noticing the plastic containers on the dining table. I just wasn't in the mood today, so I got takeout. Have you eaten? I can whip something up. I knew she had just had dinner with Julian, so she wouldn't ask. Why weren't you in the mood? She suddenly asked, looking at me. In that split second, her eyes darted to my phone on the table. While eating, I had stupidly opened that photo of them again and zoomed in. Chloe noticed it almost immediately and frowned. I followed her look and my face burned. I lunged to grab my phone, hiding it behind my back as I stammered, "To opened it by accident." I was so mortified, I wanted the floor to open up and swallow me. It was absolute social death. Why did I forget to lock my screen? I wanted to vanish. Chloe gave my face a thoughtful look, her lips twitching into a tiny smile. With my head down, I missed the stunning, fleeting warmth that crossed her beautiful face. Eating too much takeout is bad for you, she said, heading straight to her study. I let out a massive sigh of relief. She clearly didn't care. It made sense that her heart belonged to Julian, so she probably didn't give a damn about my feelings. I cursed myself for stressing over nothing, quickly finished eating, and took the empty boxes downstairs to the trash. Just as I was about to head back, I saw a sophisticated-looking man walking towards me. It was her first love, Julian. What was he doing here? I frowned, realizing what was happening. Just moments ago, I was wondering why Chloe had come home so early instead of staying with him. It turned out they had already arranged for him to come over and catch up. How foolish of me to assume Chloe was to reserve to bring him home so soon. I had completely overthought everything. After all, this was the man she cherished and pined for all these years. How could she bear to be apart for even a second? But now, I was in a highly awkward position. Should I head back up? Should I do the right thing and slip away to give the reunited lovers some privacy, or go back up to tell Chloe first? As Julian drew near, I couldn't help but silently admit he was stunningly handsome. We actually shared a striking resemblance. If we walked down the street together, people might easily mistake us for brothers. The reality that Chloe paid a massive fortune for a contract marriage just because of my face made me feel both lucky and pathetic. Lucky, because this face got her to notice me at all, which let me raise the money from Mr. Peterson's treatment. But I was miserable because the same face made me a stand-in for years, just a tool for her to stare at and remember him. You must be Ethan, right? While I was still debating what to do, Julian strolled up, scanning me up and down with a look that was 30% playful and 70% mocking. I looked up, our eyes met, and I felt the clear disdain in his gaze. Yet, it was hard to get angry. No matter how you sliced it, I was just his substitute. He had every right to mock me. Having taken the cash, I had long prepared myself for humiliation. Mr. Vance, right? You're here to see Miss Sterling. I will show you up. I quickly forced a smile. Chloe was my boss, and this man was her boyfriend, which basically made him my boss too. As a good employee, I had to do my duty. Julian paused, then said with an amused grin, I will have to trouble you then. I led him upstairs and immediately went to tell Chloe. Taking a deep breath, I knocked on her study door. What is it? Her cold voice came from inside. Miss Sterling, your boyfriend is here to see you. There was silence. After a moment, Chloe opened the door, glanced at me, and frowned as she walked into the living room, instantly spotting Julian sitting on the sofa. What are you doing here? Chloe asked with a faint smile, sitting down next to him. I was stunned. Hadn't they planned this? Chloe, I heard from Sarah that you moved to a new place a few years ago, so I wanted to see it. The decor is great. Julian, since it is your first time here, let me show you around. Sure. They both stood up to tour. When they reached my room, Julian gasped in surprise. This is my favorite minimalist style. Chloe, was this prepared for me? And this Bosendorfer grand piano, I remember mentioning once that I liked it. I can't believe you bought it. Chloe, you're the best. Having just finished cutting fruit, I walked back and overheard them, feeling completely dazed. So, this room's decor was tailored for Julian. I actually loved it. Too simple, understated, and beautiful, especially that piano. See, I wasn't originally from this world. In my past life, I was an orphan raised by a kind scavenger. Through hard work, I made it into a top-tier music conservatory. Music was my passion. After crossing over to this world, the moment I saw this piano, I fell deeply in love with it. Whenever Chloe was out, I would play for a while. Unfortunately, one afternoon she came home early to grab some files, and caught me playing in my room. I still remember her furious, dark expression, her face practically dripping with rage. Her voice was incredibly sharp as she snapped, "Who gave you permission to touch this piano? From now on, never touch it without my permission." Back then, I assumed she was just worried I would damage the expensive instrument, so I apologized profusely and promised never to touch it again. Only now did I realize that piano was bought for her first love. It belonged to him alone. I sat on the sofa dazed until Chloe and Julian walked back in. I stood up. "Mr. Vance, please have some fruit, Miss Sterling. I have plans tonight, so I will leave you two to talk." After saying that, I hurried to my room to grab a jacket and get ready to leave. By the looks of it, Julian might stay the night, so it was best to slip away and avoid being an eyesore. "Where are you going?" Chloe suddenly demanded, staring at me with a hostile look. What else could you possibly have to do? I felt frustrated. I was already giving them space, so what more did she want? Did she need me to stay and play third wheel? I had no idea what she was thinking. For a moment, I couldn't find a good excuse and just stammered. Her voice grew even colder. "You will sit right here." I froze on the spot. "Chloe, since Mr. Hayes has things to do, just let him go," Julian said with a smile, trying to smooth things over. I breathed a sigh of relief and shot him a grateful look. Honestly, although I was a diligent employee who followed reasonable requests from my employer, I had no desire to watch them get affectionate or eavesdrop. I had just turned to leave when Chloe shouted again, "Stop!" The step I had just taken froze midair. "Julian, it's getting late. Why don't you head back and rest?" she said, her face softening as she spoke in a gentle whisper. Julian was stunned, finding it hard to believe. After all, he had come over tonight hoping for some action. He even had protection in his pocket. He never expected that after less than half an hour, Chloe would kick him out. However, what she said next was something Julian never anticipated. "I have an early meeting tomorrow morning, and I need to spend tonight reviewing some materials." Since she put it that way, Julian couldn't argue. He UPN nodded. "Right, work is important. By the way, are you free tomorrow? I'd love to take you to a movie, some other time." "I'll be very busy tomorrow with several meetings." Julian was taken aback again. He hesitated for a long moment before flashing his signature smile. "All right then. I'm staying in the country this time, so we'll have plenty of time to meet up in the future." Julian left, but not before giving me a long, icy look that made me shiver. Does this guy hate me now? I was speechless. "Chloe rejected you, so what does that have to do with me? Didn't you see me trying to leave and give you guys space?" This made me realize I had to get away from this couple immediately, or there would be endless trouble. With that in mind, I couldn't help but cautiously ask, "Miss Sterling, have you finished checking all your things?" Chloe's beautiful face instantly turned cold. "Checking what?" "Your belongings," I said, not yet realizing her expression was growing icy. I continued, "I may be poor, but I'm really not that kind of person. You can check, nothing is missing." Before I could even finish, I suddenly felt a sudden chill. Stunned, I looked up and met Chloe's gaze. She looked like she wanted to hit someone. "Do you think you're being funny?" I know, I couldn't figure out what this woman was thinking. What I did was clearly for everyone's benefit. "You check your things, I leave early, and everyone is happy. It is a win-win situation. Isn't that what everyone wants?" Why the sour face? She stared at me coldly for a long time, until my skin crawled. Without saying a single word, she walked into the study and slammed the door hard. While I was still in a daze, the door opened again. She looked frozen solid, and her voice was as cold as ice. "Ethan, our contract isn't over yet. I paid you. If you dare leave this house before the contract ends, just try it." The door slammed shut again, leaving me dumbfounded. I really hadn't expected this. Did this fairy-like CEO have some weird penchant for having an audience watch her and her first love's public displays of affection? Was she forcing me to stay just to witness how in love they were? Whatever. I took her money, so I should help her be happy. If she had this kind of hobby, I would just have to indulge her. There was only 1 month left, so I could bear with it. Early the next morning, I was in Jessica's Porsche heading to the film studio. "You look terrible. Did your ball and chain at home not let you get any rest last night?" Jessica teased, glancing at me. I blushed with embarrassment. "Jessica, please don't joke around like that." Jessica giggled, loving how shy I got. "If I had a sweet young thing like you at home, I wouldn't get a wink of sleep." I looked awkward, not knowing how to respond. She smiled and got back to business. "How's the script study coming along?" "It is okay. Don't put too much pressure on yourself. Your role is just a minor character with very little screen time and low expectations." I nodded. The filming location was Cinemagic Chicago Film Studios, about an hour-and-a-half drive from downtown. When we arrived, it was just past 8, and the crew was still setting up. Jessica took me directly to the director, Mr. Hoffman. This was a low-budget web series, and since my role had minimal screen time, after seeing my photo and a little pull from Jessica, the director made the decision on the spot. This was my first time meeting Director Hoffman. He was in his 50s, once a well-known industry director who had directed several primetime network shows with great success. However, the last few years had been rough. Project after project flopped, and he fell out of favor, forced to pivot to web series. Still, he kept all his old industry connections. His eyes, hidden behind thick lenses, scanned me up and down, exuding a quiet, powerful air of authority. "Not bad. You've got potential, and you're even more handsome in person than in your photos." "You're too kind, Director. I'm just a newcomer, and I hope you'll offer plenty of guidance and feedback," I said humbly. Of course. Jessica and I go way back. Anyone she brings in is bound to be good. Just do your best, kid. Plenty of opportunities ahead," Mr. Hoffman said, patting my shoulder encouragingly. As we talked, a sudden commotion erupted from the crowd outside. "Oh my God, it's Julian Vance. It's really Julian. I finally get to see Julian Vance in person. He is so handsome. Why is he coming to our set? Is he in this series? Wasn't the male lead already cast? For a low-budget web series, the director must be amazing." Hearing Julian's name out of the blue left me completely shocked. Immediately after, I saw a tall, slender young man in sunglasses, surrounded by 7 or 8 assistants and bodyguards, walk onto the set. He wore a sharp, custom-tailored suit that made him look incredibly dashing and full of star power. "It's actually Julian Vance." Jessica's eyes filled with heart-shaped bubbles. Clearly, she was also a massive fan of his. "Director Hoffman, I thought the cast was locked. What is Julian Vance doing here?" Hoffman laughed. "I am still dazed myself. Last night, I got a call from Julian Vance's agent. He begged to join our web series for a dirt cheap fee. I still feel like I am dreaming. We could never afford an A-list superstar like Julian Vance. Even a typical B-list actor would not give us a second glance." The fact that Julian lowered his status for a friendly price kept Hoffman up all night with absolute joy. "Ethan, this is your big break," Jessica squealed. "Having an A-list celebrity like Julian in the show means our exposure will skyrocket. If you perform well in your role, you could easily ride his coattails to stardom." I managed a weak smile. Nobody else understood why a superstar would sink this low, but I did. He was here because of me. I glanced at Julian as the crowd fawned over him. Suddenly, our eyes locked, but he quickly turned away, pretending he did not even know me. I had zero desire to talk to him either, but Jessica was getting frantic. An A-list star is a rare catch, and she wanted me to make a lasting impression. I wanted to refuse, but Jessica dragged me right over. "Hello, Mr. Vance. I am Jessica from Press Stage Entertainment, and this is my client, Ethan Hayes. He plays a supporting character." Jessica nudged me, forcing me to swallow my pride and say hello. Julian smirked from behind his dark sunglasses, offering a cold grunt. Jessica quickly chimed in, explaining that I was still a newcomer who needed guidance. Since I stayed silent, she had to speak up for me. "Kids these days should focus on their craft instead of shortcuts," Julian sneered, his voice dripping with malice. The moment those harsh words left his mouth, a sudden, heavy silence fell over the entire set. People stared at me in shock. In showbiz, we usually pretend to get along. It was incredibly rare for a star to humiliate someone so publicly. They must have wondered what I did to offend him. Suddenly, everyone backed away from me, terrified of upsetting the lead actor. Jessica looked absolutely horrified. She clearly never saw that coming. Once Julian strutted off, she grabbed my arm nervously. "Ethan, did you cross him before? He's a major celebrity." "How could I have ever crossed him?" I shrugged. "I had to keep my marriage to Chloe a secret. Besides, Julian is famous, and any rumor could spark a massive scandal. I had no idea he was such a jerk. I actually liked him, Jessica grumbled, taking my side over her aisle. She declared me far better behaved than that arrogant prick. Don't worry, she comforted me. You barely have any scenes, and none are with him. Just avoid him. That was my plan too. My role was strictly limited to the female lead's flashbacks, so we had zero crossover. I just had to keep my distance. But life loves throwing curveballs when you least expect them. Leo, am I your one and only? A young actress cried out dramatically on set, stepping backward and looking up at me. Yes, Iris, you will always be my only one. I delivered my line. Cut! Director Hoffman suddenly roared. Ethan, what are you doing? If you cannot act, get lost. You are wasting everyone's time. His outburst shocked the crew because my delivery was actually flawless. I had poured my heart into the scene, leaving everyone confused by his rage. I apologized immediately, hoping to keep the peace. Hoffman looked visibly tense. Despite his loud shouting, "Let us go again," he snapped. I reset my emotions, giving it my all, but no matter what I did in the next takes, Hoffman was never satisfied. His insults turned vicious. The whole crew knew my acting was fine, and he was just targeting me. Jessica, what is this trash? Who did you bring me? Hoffman screamed. I want him gone. Take him off my set. I will pay the cancellation fee. Jessica glared at him. Director Hoffman, I demand an explanation. An explanation? For what? It is not my fault your actor is completely useless, he spat. You know damn well he can act. Jessica snapped back. Hoffman waved her off. Do not make a scene. Just get him off my set. Jess, drop it, I said, pulling her back before she could argue more. I had no beef with Hoffman, so this random hostility had to be Julian's doing. He was clearly pulling the strings. This is pure bullying. Jessica cried, her eyes tearing up. If this cheap web series fires you, so be it. I will find you something much better. I smiled warmly. I trust you, Jessica. As we walked out, she offered me a ride home, but I declined. I wanted to check out some local apartments I saw online. If I was going to work here, finding a place nearby made total sense, though nobody had called me back yet. Do you need any help? She asked. No, I can handle it. She nodded, promising to head to the office and find me a new gig. After she left, I turned around, but a snobby middle-aged woman blocked my path. You are Ethan Hayes, right? Julian wants to see you. I completely ignored her, up until today. I tolerated Julian despite him being Chloe's ex, but today's stunt disgusted me. I am usually easygoing, but I have my limits. Are you deaf? Get over here. She shrieked, pointing a finger. A good dog does not block the road, I snapped, bypassing her to hail a taxi, her face twisted in pure rage. As she grabbed my arm, who are you calling a dog? Let go. I ordered coldly. She smirked. No, meeting Julian Vance is the chance of a lifetime for a nobody like you. How dare you act high and mighty? Leave him be. Miss King, Julian interjected, approaching us. Julian, this brat is so ungrateful, she sneered, glaring at me. Julian smirked, looking me up and down. Ethan, do you not want to have a chat about Chloe? He asked. This is not the place. What do you want? I demanded. Later, inside a quiet cafe, Julian grinned. You saw today. I just told Hoffman I hated you, and he instantly booted you. He chuckled. Do you honestly believe you belong in our world? I frowned. Did you drag me here just to stroke your ego? He wagged his finger. You are not even worth that. I brought you here to remind you that real life has no fairy tales. The princess never loves the frog, and he never becomes a prince. Chloe only married you because you look like me. You know that. Now that I am back, why are you still clinging to her? I looked him in the eye. You are overthinking. I know my place and have no interest in clinging. Good. Then move out immediately. I hate other men near her. I am already house hunting. I reply. Julian smirked, sliding his phone over. Read the texts Chloe and I sent. I had no idea what he was up to, but I caught a glimpse of his chat screen with Chloe. Julian wrote, Are you waiting for the contract to end before he moves out? Chloe replied, No, he is not. Julian replied, You haven't actually caught feelings for him, have you? He is pretty good looking. Chloe answered, "No, it is just a contract." Julian typed back, "I am not trying to be harsh, but he has been taking care of you for 5 years. If you really want him to stay, I get it, but it makes me incredibly uncomfortable." Chloe replied, "I will talk to Ethan and make things clear. Do not worry about it. To me, he is just a roommate I have lived with for years, nothing more." After reading that, I had no desire to scroll further. I slid the phone back, a strange feeling churning deep inside my chest. A roommate, I guess that was the truth. For 5 years, we shared a roof but barely spoke a word. It was always me unilaterally looking after her, pouring my heart into taking care of her. Meanwhile, outside of gifting me 2 watches for my birthdays, she never responded in kind. She never showed a shred of real concern. Honestly, actual roommates living together for 5 years would have shown more warmth than this. We were completely devoid of any mutual care. Reading between the lines of her texts, I could see her dilemma. She wanted me gone, but her conscience stopped her from saying those words out loud. I never understood why she kept holding on to me despite my constant efforts to walk away. What was her game? This time, I figured I would just pack up and slip away quietly without saying goodbye. I would just text her once I relocated. Maybe a clean break was what she truly wanted. Meanwhile, on the 79th floor of the Sterling Group headquarters, Chloe was on a call with Dr. Evans. "How is he doing, doctor?" "Honestly, Miss Sterling, it does not look good. The patient has severe lung damage, and he waited far too long. I told him we could treat it, but the reality is grim. He probably only has about 2 months left." Hearing the doctor sigh, Chloe froze in shock. Are there really no other options? Money is not an issue here. Currently, there is no cure for this disease. Not here, and not abroad. At best, the money might buy him a little more time, but he will suffer immensely. Chloe remained silent for a long moment, gripping the phone tightly before she spoke. "Dr. Evans, you are the leading expert here. I am trusting you. Forget the cost. Just give him the absolute best treatment possible." After hanging up, Chloe slumped back in her executive chair, completely drained. Suddenly, a sharp ache bloomed deep in her chest. Her heart fluttered with a sudden, heavy dread. For some reason, her mind drifted back to the day Julian had packed his bags and broken things off. He had left her to study abroad. Heartbroken, she had dragged her best friend, Tiffany, to a local bar called the Muse to drown her sorrows. She hated alcohol, but that night was different. She downed glass after glass, desperate to numb the agony. That was when she first saw Ethan on stage, pouring his soul into a song. His voice was incredibly soothing, a gentle balm to her spirit. As he strummed his guitar with his head low, his side profile looked so much like Julian's that it blurred the lines in her mind. Slowly, his music began to mend her shattered soul. After that, a woman who never frequented bars became a daily regular. She would wait hours just to hear Ethan sing. Watching his face and listening to his melodies became her only escape. Only in those fleeting moments did her broken heart find any comfort. Later, she asked the manager about him, and learned his name was Ethan Hayes, a young guy facing some tough times. He had dropped out of college, working multiple gigs to survive. He did modeling and film extra work by day, and sang at night. Coincidentally, around that same time, her family was pushing her to marry. After one of his sets, just as Ethan was packing up to leave, Chloe pulled him into a private lounge and offered him a contract. To this day, she still remembered his stunned expression. He had looked shocked, then deeply relieved. He promised to be the perfect contract husband, and honestly, he was. Over the last 5 years, he had been absolutely flawless, caring for her every need. He managed her entire life with incredible care. Shaking herself out of her daze, Chloe grabbed her phone and dialed. "Hey, Chloe. What is the occasion?" Tiffany answered. "Tiffany, I need a huge favor. You have medical contacts in the United Kingdom, right? Can you help me track down a top lung specialist? Anywhere in the world is fine. Money does not matter." "Wait, Chloe. What is going on?" "It is not me. A close friend of mine has lung cancer." "Okay, I will do some digging and call you as soon as I find someone." Meanwhile, I kept searching around the film studio but found nothing suitable, so I just left my contact details with a few local real estate agents. Then, I called Mrs. Davis, the nurse caring for Mr. Peterson. Hearing that he was doing well finally gave me some peace of mind. With that settled, I headed home. This time, my mind was made up. I packed my belongings, checked into a cheap motel nearby, and sat down that evening to eat a lonely bowl of instant noodles. As I ate, my phone buzzed with Chloe's caller identity. I stared at it for a while before finally sliding to answer. "Where did you go?" Her voice was ice cold, laced with a sharp edge of anger. "Miss Sterling, I am staying at a motel for now," I replied honestly. "Come back." "What?" I was thrown off. I said, "Come back." I genuinely could not comprehend what she wanted. I had tried to put myself in her shoes and handle this gracefully. She was too polite to throw me out, so I left. Her guilt made her stall me, so I slipped away quietly. I did everything right. Now that I was gone, what more did she expect? I frowned. "Miss Sterling, there is no reason for me to return." "What do you mean by that?" I sighed deeply. "Miss Sterling, we only have a month left. Our contract is almost up. Since Julian is back, me staying there would only make things awkward for you and uncomfortable for him. Let us just end it early," I added. I did the math. 5 million over 5 years comes down to about 83,000 a month. Since I am leaving early, I owe you 83,000. I will repay you, but money is a bit tight, so it might take some time. The line went dead silent. All I could hear was her heavy, ragged breathing as she fought to control her temper. A wave of irritation washed over me. She had already promised Julian she would make me leave, so why the act? "Do not worry, Miss Sterling, I am not going to talk. I will never do anything to hurt your reputation." In that moment, the only logical explanation was that she feared I would go public with our arrangement. She probably thought I would spread rumors and hurt her brand. The Sterling Group was a public company, and even a tiny scandal could tank their stock price. Her side of the line remained completely silent. Assuming she was satisfied, I let out a sigh of relief and hung up. After finishing my noodles, I stood in front of the bathroom mirror to practice my facial expressions. I had absolutely nothing left, so I had to rely on my talent. Ever since I arrived in this world, I spent every free second practicing my acting and dialogue delivery. With Mr. Peterson's medical bills piling up and the debt I now owed Chloe, the pressure was immense. That night, just as I was drifting off to sleep, a sudden knock sounded at my door. I wondered who could possibly be visiting so late. Slipping into my footwear, I got up and looked through the peephole. I froze in utter shock. How on earth did Chloe find me here? My brain was a tangled mess of confusion. It was not a shock that she tracked me down. Sterling family has deep resources, and finding a cheap motel is easy for someone of her stature. The why show up at my doorstep in the dead of night, when I had made everything perfectly clear? I had no idea how to face her, but ignoring her while she stood out there felt incredibly rude. Taking a deep breath to compose myself, I turned the handle and pulled the door open. Her bright, piercing eyes locked onto my face, her expression completely unreadable. "Pack your bags and come home with me." I stood frozen, just staring at her. She must have rushed over here. Her hair was slightly disheveled, and she was still in her tailored business suit, the very outfit she wore to the office. Chloe was a woman of luxury who hated feeling restricted. Normally, she would shed her work clothes the second she got home to relax. Dressed in casual clothes, she must have come home, found the house empty, and used her network to track down my motel before rushing over. I just couldn't understand what she was trying to do. She clearly wanted me out of that house, so who was this act even for? "I'm not going back," I said, shaking my head. I made myself clear on the phone. "Why are you throwing a tantrum? Are you mad because Julian came over the other day?" Chloe's brows knitted tightly. I frowned in utter shock. Why on earth would she say that? Did she actually think I was jealous? My face flushed at the thought. "Please don't worry, Miss Sterling," I blurted out. "I don't think like that at all. You and Mr. Vance are the real couple. You and I are just in a contract marriage." I knew that the very day I signed it, and I'll never had any unrealistic expectations. "Please don't misunderstand." Chloe was slightly taken aback by my words, looking a bit angry. "Either way, our contract isn't over, and I won't let you just walk out. Come back with me now." I shook my head. Since I had already moved out, I was absolutely not going back. I had no weird desire to spy on another couple's intimate moments. I'll ask you one more time. Are you coming back or not? Chloe's tone grew much more forceful. Miss Sterling, I'm doing fine staying here. Chloe gave me a long, intense look, then turned and walked out. I silently watched her leave. For a proud woman like her to actually try persuading me to return was already hard to believe. Since I'd stood my ground, her pride must have forced her to give up entirely. I felt a wave of relief. Still, I was grateful to Chloe. After all, without the $5 million she gave me, Mr. Peterson might have died, and the group home would never have been rebuilt. But business is business. I didn't want to go back there and look at Julian. If I hadn't clashed with him today, I might not have been so stubborn. But right now, I felt a deep, gut-level aversion to having him around. Around 11 at night, a phone call woke me. Hello, who is this? Ethan? What kind of husband are you? A sharp female voice scolded. Get to the Muse bar right now. Chloe is wasted. My drowsiness vanished instantly. I sat straight up, checking the screen. The caller was Tiffany, Chloe's best friend. I'm on my way, I said, not even caring about my messy hair. I threw on some clothes, called a cab, and rushed over. Stepping into the private room, the first thing I saw was Chloe, completely passed out on the sofa, her cheeks flushed, tanned, her lips murmuring. Tiffany had clearly had a lot to drink too, leaning against the cushions and rubbing her face. She was a petite, girl next door type, not quite as stunning as Chloe, but she was still a rare beauty. Ethan, the moment she saw me, Tiffany threw her hands on her hips. What did you do to Chloe? She never drinks like this. And look at her now. I sigh, feeling helpless. Miss Davis, this isn't on me. Maybe she had a fight with Mr. Vance. I highly doubted my refusal to go home was what set her off. Over these past 5 years, Chloe had never invested any real emotion in me, not even anger. All her feelings were reserved for Julian. Tiffany paused, clearly digesting this. That made sense. Chloe never even looked at me twice, so why would she waste her anger on me? Tiffany's hostility cooled. Fine, just take her home. But then, she remembered something and raised an eyebrow with a warning glare. By the way, Julian is back. Don't you dare take advantage of Chloe while she's out. I took the chance to suggest, why not call Mr. Vance to pick her up? I tried. He's at an event tonight and can't leave. There was no other choice. Chloe was wasted, and I couldn't abandon her. Miss Davis, if you don't trust me, you can come with us. There are plenty of guest rooms where you can spend the night. Tiffany hesitated, then nodded. Fine. I really don't trust you. Smiling wryly, I walked over to Chloe and easily scooped her up. She was tall but very light, probably barely 100 pounds. Plus, since I was determined to break into the entertainment industry, I always worked out, keeping in great shape with solid ABS and plenty of strength. I located Chloe's G-Wagon in the lot and drove us back toward the villa. Ethan, your contract is almost up, right? Tiffany suddenly asked from the back, massaging her head. Yeah. A little over a month left. Now that Julian is back, what are you going to do? I knew what she was getting at. I've already moved out. You moved out? Tiffany gasped in disbelief. Yeah. I'm staying in a motel for now, until I find a new place. Tiffany stared at me. Are you really okay with that? Chloe is loaded. Even if it's just a contract, you're legally married. You're fine leaving with absolutely nothing. I shrug. Why wouldn't I be? None of that wealth was ever mine. Miss Sterling has actually been incredibly good to me. Without her financial help back then, I'd probably be ruined. I can't just make things hard for her now. After a long silence, Tiffany muttered, well, it's good you see it that way. If you expected more, you'd only end up miserable. Once we got back, I carried Chloe up to her room and tucked her in. I grabbed a warm towel to wipe her face, then headed to the kitchen to brew some hangover soup. Gently feeding her spoonful by spoonful, Tiffany watched, completely amazed. Do you always take care of her like this? I smiled. She's my employer. She gave me $5 million. I can never repay that, so the least I can do is handle these little things so she can just relax when she gets home. Tiffany was speechless. Just then, Chloe's face turned pale and she suddenly retched over the edge of the bed. I couldn't dodge in time, and got splashed. No matter how gorgeous a woman is, vomit is still vomit. A horrible smell filled the room. Tiffany got hit too, shrieked, and scrambled backward. By the time I finished scrubbing the floor and washing up, it was well past midnight. I collapsed into sleep. The next morning, I was plating breakfast when Chloe and Tiffany finally emerged, fully cleaned up. "Morning, food's ready. Come eat," I said, bringing the food out from the kitchen. "Wow, Ethan, did you make all this?" Tiffany gasped, eyeing the table. There was a plate of heart-shaped osmanthus cakes decorated with fresh petals and artfully carved durian pastries, shaped like little animals, next to a steaming bowl of savory pork congee that smelled absolutely mouth-watering. She clearly hadn't expected me to possess such incredible culinary skills. "You're too kind, Miss Davis. Just basic stuff, really." Chloe stared at the elaborate breakfast, her expression deeply conflicted. Over the past 5 years, I had constantly prepared custom breakfasts for her. She'd taken it for granted, but sitting here now, she had to realize that even a 5-star private chef wouldn't feed her this well every single day. "This is amazing. Ethan, did you go to culinary school?" Tiffany sat down, took a bite of the cake, her eyes lighting up instantly. "No," I reply. "I used to cook for the kids at the orphanage. After moving into Miss Sterling's house 5 years ago, I had plenty of free time, so I practiced." Chloe looked up, visibly stunned. "You're an orphan." She'd had no idea. Whenever I left for a few days to go home, she simply assumed I had a real family. It never crossed her mind. Her mind was spinning. How little had she actually cared about her contract husband? After all this time, she knew absolutely nothing about me. "Yes," I said, "Mr. Peterson from the orphanage found me in a dumpster and took me in. I was adopted at 5, but when I turned 10, they had their own kid and sent me back," I said calmly over breakfast. Speaking as if it happened to someone else. "I'm so sorry. I had no idea," Tiffany said softly, her eyes full of pity. "It's fine." I smiled. "I moved past it a long time ago." I grabbed a napkin, wiped my mouth, and stood up. "Miss Sterling, Miss Davis, please take your time. I'm leaving now." Chloe parted her lips, looking like she wanted to say something, but in front of Tiffany, her cold, proud nature kept her from saying a single word to make me stay. She could only watch me walk away. "Chloe, are you really going to end your contract with him?" Tiffany asked, blinking in confusion. Chloe frowned. "Why are you asking? If you're really ending things with him, why don't you let me have him?" "Let you have him?" Chloe stared at her, completely stunned. Tiffany nodded. "You know my dad wants me to marry Mr. Knight. The guy is a massive playboy and new girlfriend every 3 days. I can't stand him. I was thinking of doing what you did, finding a shield, getting secretly married, and then my dad won't be able to force me anymore. I think he's actually a pretty good fit." Chloe suddenly felt her heart skip a beat, and her throat went dry. "What do you say, Chloe? Don't tell me you can't bear to let him go." Seeing her silence, Tiffany added, "You already have Julian. You know Julian and I." Chloe began to explain, but then stopped herself. There was no need. "Tiffany, you two aren't a good match." "Why not? It's just a contract marriage, right? It's not like I'm actually in love with him. I just need a shield." "What's wrong with that?" Tiffany asked, confused. Chloe paused for a few seconds. "He's sick, terminal lung cancer. He might not live for more than 2 months." "What?" Tiffany gasped, her eyes wide with shock. "How is that possible? So you two really aren't a match? Besides, your dad met him. Even if you weren't sick, your dad wouldn't accept him." Tiffany sat there, completely dazed, as the image of my gentle, sunny smile involuntarily flashed in her mind. It seemed like ever since she met me, I always had this incredibly warm, pleasant demeanor. In the past, she had looked down on me, rarely throwing a kind glance my way or even bothering to speak. But no matter how cold she was, I always greeted her with a warm smile and respectfully called her Miss Davis. Whether it was out of pity or something else, she felt a sudden tightness in her chest. Even the fancy breakfast sitting on the table seemed to lose all its flavor. At Northwestern Memorial Hospital, inside a standard patient room, I was giving Mr. Peterson a massage. Being bedridden for so long had caused his physical functions to rapidly decline, so he needed regular massages. The caregiver we hired, Mrs. Davis, wasn't very strong, so I came by every other day to do it myself. After a long, thorough session, Mr. Peterson comfortably drifted off to sleep. I grabbed the kettle and headed to the water dispenser for hot water. Around the corner, two familiar figures were walking my way slow. "Thank you for taking the time to come to the hospital with me." "It's no problem. Feel better after your shot, much better. It's already noon. Let me buy you lunch, no excuses. Otherwise, I'll feel terrible for taking up your whole morning." I froze in my tracks. Just then, they both looked up, and our eyes locked. Chloe seemed surprised to see me. While a smug smirk spread across Julian's face, I didn't say a word, just gave Chloe a brief nod and kept walking toward the dispenser. Chloe hesitated for a second, then followed me. "Miss Sterling, is something wrong?" I asked softly. "Are you feeling any better?" "Thank you for your concern, Miss Sterling." "A little better," Chloe nodded. "If you ever need money, call me." I bowed to show my gratitude. "Move back in." "What?" I was stunned. "Move back. Living out there can't compare to the house." "I don't need that $80,000. You don't need to be stubborn with me." I stood in silence for a moment. Why on earth did she think I was being stubborn? Honestly, I couldn't comprehend what went on in this woman's head. Her boyfriend was back, yet she kept trying to force me to stay at her place. What was she playing at? After 10 seconds of silence, I finally spoke. "Miss Sterling, there's absolutely no need for me to move back. It would only cause unnecessary trouble and hassle for you and your boyfriend. I know you mean well, but I can't be that thoughtless. Thank you anyway. He's not my Chloe. What are you two talking about?" Julian asked with a smile as he walked over. Chloe quickly swallowed her words. "Mr. Hayes, Chloe and I are heading out for lunch, so we won't keep you," Julian said with a smug smile. After all, Chloe cleared her busy schedule to spend the whole morning with me at the hospital, so I really have to show my appreciation. "Hey, Mr. Hayes, are you free? Why don't you join us? I won't interrupt. I have things to take care of anyway." I stepped past them and walked away. Chloe watched my retreating figure, a strange heaviness in her chest. "Let's go, Chloe. I know an amazing spot with great food." "I'm sorry, Julian, but something urgent just came up at work. Let's do it next time," Chloe said apologetically. "Oh, I see. Well, go ahead and handle it. We'll have plenty of time later," Julian said with a casual shrug. "I'll treat you next time." Chloe didn't say anything else. She turned and left the hospital. The second her back was turned, Julian's warm, handsome face instantly darkened. He shot a cold, bitter glare in the direction I had gone. "Dr. Evans, hello." I was back in the office, meeting Dr. Evans once more. "Young man, have a seat." He had a head of graying hair and an incredibly kind demeanor. "Dr. Evans, is there something wrong with my grandfather?" I asked anxiously. "Don't panic just yet. Let's hear what the doctor has to say," Emily said, sitting comfortably right beside me. "Young man, you seemed so devastated the other day that I couldn't bring myself to tell you the truth. But after thinking it over, as his family, you had every right to know." "I shouldn't have hidden this," Dr. Evans said, placing a medical report in front of me. "Your grandfather's condition is very poor. He was a lifelong smoker, so his lungs were already weak. Plus, the fire 5 years ago where he inhaled a massive amount of smoke caused further damage. It has now progressed to advanced lung cancer. Honestly, he may only have about 2 months left." I felt like I had been struck by lightning. That's impossible, Dr. Evans. "When Mr. Peterson was admitted, we did a comprehensive physical and there were absolutely no signs of cancer." Emily's face turned pale. "Before, was your focus primarily on the burns?" Dr. Evans asked. Emily nodded. As a burn specialist, she wasn't deeply trained in internal medicine. "That explains it. The patient has been hospitalized for a long time. You likely did a full exam only when he was first admitted, spending the rest of the time focused on his burns," Dr. Evans explained. "There were likely some minor lesions in his lungs initially, but early stages are hard for equipment to detect. It built up quietly over the years, without any early intervention. Emily's face, deathly pale. She was Mr. Peterson's primary doctor. For such a devastating disease to go unnoticed under her care made her feel completely responsible. For a moment, she couldn't even look at me. "Emily," I said, though I was in absolute agony. I still caught her sudden wave of guilt. "This isn't your fault. You're a burn specialist, only responsible for those injuries." "It's on me. Mr. Peterson used to cough constantly at the home, and I ignored it, assuming it was nothing. I failed him." Emily's eyes welled with tears. Even now, she knew how utterly broken I must be. Yet I was still prioritizing her feelings. Dr. Evans was deeply touched. Truthfully, he had planned to hide the diagnosis for a bit longer. After all, Chloe was a major shareholder in the hospital where he worked. Making him her employee, he wanted to bring in lung specialists first, hoping to find a cure. If they pulled it off, the massive breakthrough might have even landed him a promotion to vice president, just as he dreamed. Suddenly, after 3 days of intense debate, the specialists concluded that there was absolutely nothing they could do. That's why he met with me today, to share the painful truth and give me time to prepare. It was clear I was a genuinely good, polite, and humble man. No wonder a woman as outstanding as Chloe favored me. "Young man, although this disease is incurable, we can prolong his life for a while. The choice is yours." I immediately asked Dr. Evans if we could extend his life. "That would be the best option." Dr. Evans nodded, "but it will require massive funding. A highly effective targeted drug just hit the market in Europe, but it's incredibly expensive, about $200,000 per dose. For your grandfather's treatment, he'll need 2 to 3 doses every month. If his body builds up resistance later, that dosage frequency will rise." Without a single second thought, I promised, "I'll find a way to secure the funds." By 6 in the evening, I stepped out of the hospital completely numb. My mind was flooded with memories of all the years I spent with Mr. Peterson. He was the one who had rescued me from a trash bin. Later, Mrs. Anderson at the group home told me I had been covered in sores and burning with a fever. If not for Mr. Peterson, I would have died and been hauled off and incinerated like a pile of garbage. Back when I was a kid, my favorite thing in the world was curling up in his arms, listening to his stories, and learning about life. He would secretly slip me pocket money away from the other kids, always remembered my birthday, and bought the exact gifts I wanted. He'd also sternly scold me when my grades fell. He was the only family I had left, my only safe haven. In my previous life, a grandfather had also raised me. Now, with 2 souls fused together, the agonizing pain of losing him cut deeper than ever. As I walked, tears began pouring down my cheeks. Suddenly, my phone started ringing. I checked the caller ID, and a wave of pure dread washed over me. I answered wearily. "Hello, hello, can't you even call me Mom anymore? Did I raise you for nothing?" A harsh, grating voice shrieked. It was Brenda, my former adoptive mother, who took me in from age 5 to 10. In those first few years, she and her husband treated me decently, almost like their own son. But when I was 8, Brenda had been told by multiple doctors she was infertile, unexpectedly became pregnant and had a healthy baby about 10 months later. The couple was absolutely thrilled, but for me, it marked the start of a living nightmare. Once their own son arrived, they found fault with everything I did. At barely 9 years old, I had to do all the housework, and any tiny mistake earned me a beating. A year later, they just dumped me back at the orphanage. That should have been the end. But 5 years ago, they discovered I had married a wealthy businesswoman. They started calling constantly, screaming that I was an ungrateful brat who struck it rich and forgotten my roots. When I ignored them, they harassed the orphanage staff instead. Exhausted by the drama, and remembering they had at least fed me for a few years and been kind at first, I handed them $200,000 all at once. That bought me some peace, but less than 6 months later, they were right back at my door, claiming that money wasn't nearly enough. Once they realized I was acting, they threatened to drag me through the media. Terrified of damaging Chloe's reputation, I backed down repeatedly over the last 5 years, which only made them bolder. I knew exactly why she was calling before I even answered. Money. Rubbing my temples, a profound exhaustion weighed on me. Are you deaf? Your little brother is sitting for his college entrance exams and is guaranteed to get into a top school. We are completely broke. Send $200,000 right now for his university tuition." Brenda barked. I sighed deeply. "Brenda, I seriously don't have that kind of cash." "Bullshit. Don't play dumb. That CEO you married comes from a family worth billions, and you're refuse to give me a measly 200,000. Are you even human? If I hadn't rescued you, you'd have starved. You worthless leech," she spat. "I've already told you, she and I are only in a contract marriage. I'm just a paid employee. Why would a powerful woman like her ever actually want an orphan like me?" I said, exhausted. "And our deal is ending soon. I truly have no money. Mr. Peterson is desperately ill and needs expensive treatment. Brenda, I'm begging you. I've given you at least $1 million over the years. You built a house and bought a luxury car with it. Can you please just let me go?" Brenda shrieked. "Don't you dare lie to me. I know how those wealthy city women love keeping handsome young botos. That rich lady keeps you around because you're attractive. Now you say you have nothing. No one believes that. You want me gone. Fine. Give me $10 million in one lump sum. Do that, and I'll never bother you again." $10 million. My jaw dropped. The sheer audacity of this woman. That CEO is worth billions. What's 10 million to her? I'm warning you. You won't get rid of me without 10 million. I'll cling to you like glue. If my family can't live in luxury, neither will you. Brenda sneered. "Do whatever you want." I muttered and hung up. I ignored her endless, frantic calls. I knew Brenda was capable of anything. Previously, I had constantly backed down because I was terrified of dragging Chloe into my mess. But now, with Mr. Peterson's life hanging in the balance and my contract with Chloe nearing its end, I refused to submit. My sole focus was finding a way to make money fast to save Mr. Peterson. After that, I wandered into the Muse. The relentless disasters of today left me feeling utterly overwhelmed, and all I really wanted was a stiff drink to numb the pain. The Muse was a massive, popular lounge always packed with people. Back when I sang here regularly, it was crowded every single night, proving how well it was managed. "What are you doing here?" As soon as I walked in, a stunning woman in her 30s with striking eyes approached. "Rachel." I smiled. This was Rachel, the bar's manager, who had always taken incredible care of me back when I performed here. "I'm just a customer tonight. And here I thought you finally came to visit me." "Guess I got my hopes up," Rachel teased, playfully rolling her eyes. I rubbed the back of my neck awkwardly. "You ungrateful brat. You snagged a billionaire wife and suddenly forgot your old working-class friends. You haven't visited us once in 5 years." Rachel huffed with mock annoyance. Unsure how to reply, I quickly tried to redirect. "So, is Lily still performing here? You've got some nerve asking about Lily. She was crazy about you. And you just vanished with a wealthy heiress without even saying goodbye. Do you know how devastated she was?" Rachel sighed. "She quit less than a month after you, but we've kept in touch over the years. 2 years back, she placed in the top 10 on a major singing competition and signed with an agency. She's not a superstar, but she books commercials, which beats bar gigs. Really. That's incredible. I know performing was her ultimate dream, and I genuinely felt thrilled for her." Rachel paused for a second before probing. "How about you? Are things still going well with your wealthy wife?" I brushed it off, not wanting to overshare. "It's fine. Rachel, you're busy with customers, so go do your thing. I'm just going to grab a table in the corner." I gestured and walked over. I ordered 2 bottles of Lafite and began drinking alone. At one point, Rachel stopped by to share a quick glass with me. But just as the alcohol started kicking in, a startled voice cried out, "What on earth are you doing here?" I spun around, staring at Emily in disbelief. I was so used to seeing her looking strictly professional in a white lab coat, but tonight, she wore a form-fitting black dress that hugged her incredible curves. She took my breath away. I couldn't help but notice several guys nearby staring at her with intense, hungry eyes. I was in a bad mood, so I came to grab a drink. "I certainly didn't expect to bump into you," Emily said, sitting down opposite me without waiting for an invite. She ordered a bottle of red wine. I knew why she was in a bad mood and gently tried to reassure her. "Emily, What's happening with Mr. Peterson isn't your fault. Please don't blame yourself, it makes me feel awful. But what about you? Are you here drinking because you are incredibly worried about your grandfather? Emily asked, studying my face. She remembered me telling her how much I hated alcohol, especially the feeling of being drunk. When I sang here, I used to drink with big spending clients and end up wasted, a feeling I absolutely despised. For me to come here alone today just to drown my sorrows, I must have been in a seriously dark place. By then, the alcohol had kicked in, my head felt heavy, and my face was burning. Hearing her words, I could only manage a bitter smile. Emily, I just feel like such a failure of a human being, Emily gasped. I threw my head back, took a deep gulp of wine, and looked at her through blurry eyes. I told you, Mr. Peterson found me in a trash bin. Without him, I'd be nothing. I was a real troublemaker growing up, and my grades were awful. Most people write off kids like me, especially orphan kids in group homes. But he never lost faith in me. Later on, when he discovered I had a gift for music, he paid for my lessons. You know, studying the arts is way too expensive for regular families, let alone an orphan like me. Yet, he backed my dream the entire way to scrape together my tuition. He worked grueling construction jobs at his age. He even fell from a building once. As I spoke, tears started rolling down my face, and I couldn't stop them. I'm so pathetic. I'm watching him suffer, watching his life slip away, and I can't do a single thing to save him. Seeing the tears streaming down my face, Emily was deeply moved. Her heart ached for me. He wouldn't blame you. Stop being so hard on yourself. You've done beautifully. And didn't you say I was your only friend? As your friend, I'm absolutely going to help you. Ethan, thank you, I said from the bottom of my heart. You've done so much for me over the years, I'll never be able to repay you. Emily smiled warmly. You silly bow, the day you took that knife from me, you saved my life. Isn't that enough? Besides, treating patients is just my job as a doctor. I've always been a lightweight. After just one bottle of wine, my head felt like it was going to burst. I slumped onto the table, completely paralyzed. Emily struggled to get me into her car, then hired a driver to take us to the Sterling mansion. She had no idea that I had already moved out. Having dropped me off there a few times, she remembered the address. But since she lacked Chloe's contact, she used my phone to make the call. Hello, a cold voice answered. Is this Miss Sterling? Ethan is heavily intoxicated. Could you come down to the gate to pick him up? Who is this? Chloe demanded, instantly suspicious hearing another woman's voice on the other end. I'm his friend. Chloe went quiet for a moment. Roughly 10 minutes later, she walked out to the gate in casual wear, surprised to find Emily waiting by the passenger side. This stranger was breathtaking, easily matching her own beauty, but with a refined, intellectual vibe that Chloe lacked, like a lady stepped out of a classic painting. When had Ethan met such a gorgeous woman? A twinge of jealousy hit her. Stepping forward, she snapped, Why would you take him out drinking? Don't you know he's sick? Emily blinked in shock. Chloe's haughty tone made her incredibly uncomfortable. Did she always treat Ethan with such condescension? That realization flared anger in Emily's eyes. Ethan was a perfect gentleman. What right did this woman have to treat him like trash? Miss Sterling, I know your family has money, but I don't know you, and I certainly don't owe you a thing. Watch your tone. Emily snapped back. Chloe stood frozen in disbelief, realizing how harsh she sounded. She wasn't usually this rude, but she was just so anxious about his failing health. Ethan had barely 2 months left, yet this woman had dragged him out to get wasted. That's what made her so furious. Hand him over, I'll take him inside. Emily arched an eyebrow. Miss Sterling, as Ethan's friend, I believe I have every right to say a few words here. He might lack wealth and status, and he's nothing to the powerful Sterling family, but he's a deeply decent human being. He deserves to be loved and cherished. Be kinder to him, if you won't. Plenty of others gladly will. Emily didn't know how Chloe and I actually lived, but she sensed she treated me poorly. Otherwise, how could a billionaire's husband be so stressed about medical bills that it was likely he would resort to drinking himself senseless at some dive bar? Our private life is none of your concern. But thank you for bringing him back safely, Chloe said with a sharp edge. Chloe gave her a searching look, hauled my limp, drunken body out of the seat, and headed toward the house. Once inside, she dumped me onto the bed, panting heavily from the physical effort. She stood there, silently studying the man who had shared her life for all these years. When I was drunk, I never made a scene or mumbled nonsense. I just drifted into a deep, silent sleep. In terms of physical appearance, I was undeniably flawless. Chloe had known plenty of good-looking guys, but I easily ranked in her top 3. She stared for a long moment, then turned away, her mind in turmoil. She grabbed a damp towel from the bathroom to gently clean my face, then pulled a warm blanket over me. Dead to the world, I had no idea what she was doing. She retreated to her study and called Dr. Evans. "Miss Sterling, is everything all right? How is Ethan?" "Not good. He showed up today, and things are clearly getting worse. I've been consulting with several specialists over the last few days. Our best bet is to import a specific targeted therapy drug from Europe," Dr. Evans explained. "It costs $200,000 per dose, and he needs it for at least 3 months. That kind of cash was pocket change to Chloe. She didn't care about the price. "If we start this medication, how much more time does he have? The drug works, but the body builds resistance quickly. It peaks in the first 2 months. Then we'll have to up the dose until it stops working entirely," Dr. Evans sighed. "According to my current medical assessment, with this treatment, he might get another 6 months at best." Chloe went silent, then replied, "Money is irrelevant. If you can buy him more time, I will personally owe you a massive favor. Please make it happen." "Don't worry, Miss Sterling. I will do everything in my power." Hanging up, Chloe rubbed her aching temples. She walked back to the bedroom to watch me sleep, then dialed another number. "Go to room 308 at the Riverside Motel. Pack up everything and bring it to my place." In less than an hour, Sarah returned with the bags I had abandoned at the motel. She was utterly baffled. "Miss Sterling, since he packed up and left on his own, isn't this exactly what you and Julian wanted?" Chloe hadn't told anyone about my terminal diagnosis yet. Keeping it strictly secret, I paid him $5 million. "Until our contract officially expires, he goes nowhere." Sarah was absolutely flabbergasted by this news. $5 million? Chloe routinely blew millions on casual shopping trips, so why would $5 million matter? She stared at her boss with growing suspicion. "Miss Sterling, you couldn't actually be falling for. That's enough. You're dismissed." Chloe cut her off sharply. Sarah blinked in surprise. After hesitating for a moment, she pleaded, "Chloe, you and Julian finally found your way back to each other after all these years. If you keep playing these games with Ethan now that Julian is home, he is going to be devastated." Chloe shot her an icy glare. "You are overstepping your boundaries. Do I need you telling me how to run my life? Get out." Once Sarah left, Chloe stood alone in the quiet living room. She had always loved romantic Western novels, dreaming of finding an absolute, platonic soulmate. Back in college, Julian had chased her relentlessly. He was the ultimate campus golden boy, extraordinarily handsome, talented, and incredibly popular with women. Chloe fell for him too. Worn down by his constant attention, she finally agreed to be his girlfriend. But she demanded a strict promise: zero physical intimacy, only a deep, spiritual connection. If the day came where she felt they were truly destined, she would surrender everything. At first, Julian agreed without hesitation. But once they graduated, he grew sick of this hands-off, purely emotional relationship. He laid down a final ultimatum: either they slept together, or they broke up. When Julian left the country in a rage, Chloe spent months wondering if she had been far too harsh. After all, who dates for over a year in this day and age without allowing so much as a simple touch? The more she rationalized, the more she felt she owed him everything. Julian had planned that, if they still loved each other when he got back, she would give him everything. But the day he returned, the moment she saw him at the airport, even though he was more handsome and charismatic than ever, she did not feel the joy she had imagined. Chloe had a reserved personality. During her year-long relationship with Julian, they were often apart because of his filming schedule, and as a result, she was slow to understand her own heart. Even now, she was not sure what she felt for him. Maybe there was some affection left, or maybe it was just a lingering obsession from the past. A sense of debt to him. As she stood there lost in thought, she suddenly heard a sound from my room. After a brief pause, she walked in and found me sitting up, dazed and confused. "You're awake, Miss Sterling. What are you doing here?" I asked, my words slurring. She replied, "This is my house. Where else would I be? How did I get back here? I am sorry, Miss Sterling. I will leave right away." I stood up unsteadily, preparing to go. "Sit down." Chloe frowned. "It is the middle of the night. Where do you think you are going? I have already had your luggage brought back and checked you out of that motel. From now on, you are staying here." "You brought my luggage back?" I stared at her blankly. "I told you, our contract is not over. You are not going anywhere. For this month, at least, you stay right here," Chloe said, her voice sharp and commanding. "If you dare run off again without saying a word, just try it." My head was spinning, looking up at the gorgeous woman standing in front of me. A wave of alcohol-fueled anger surged inside my chest. "What gives you the right to do this?" Chloe froze, clearly shocked that I, guy who was usually as quiet as a kitten, dared to snap at her. "Because I spent $5 million on you." "Is that not enough?" "Chloe, do not push me. I still have my dignity." "What right do you have to humiliate me like this?" I shouted. "I already told you I would pay you back. What more do you want? Do you need to keep me here just to feed some bizarre fetish of yours?" Chloe looked totally lost. "What fetish?" "I want to leave, but you refuse to let me. You force me to stay. Isn't it just so I can watch you and your precious Julian be all lovey-dovey?" "Yes, I took your $5 million, but you cannot use that money to humiliate me. I do not have some twisted urge to watch other people. Why make me stay here and suffer? Please, do me a favor and let me go. I do not want to be the third wheel." As I spoke, a wave of dizziness washed over me. I stumbled, fell onto the mattress, and passed out, still mumbling, "I do not want to be the third wheel." Chloe stood frozen, staring at my pathetic state. Then, she suddenly lost her composure and burst out laughing, a sound that seemed to fill the entire room with light. The next morning, I sat up, rubbing my pounding head. I stared at the familiar yet strange bedroom. Suddenly, it hit me I might have said some terrible things. Last night, I slapped my forehead in sheer frustration. "Ethan. Oh Ethan, I told you not to drink, but you just had to. How are you going to fix this mess?" I cringed so hard that it felt like my toes were digging through the floor. The damage was done. How was I supposed to face her? I sat on the mattress, completely paralyzed, before finally dragging myself to the bathroom to wash my face and walked into the living room. The moment I entered, I froze. In the kitchen, Chloe was busy. She was wearing a silk nightgown, the soft fabric clinging beautifully to her gorgeous curves, showing off her graceful figure. I rubbed my eyes, wondering if the hangover was making me hallucinate. In all my years living here, I had never once seen Chloe in the kitchen. I always assumed it was natural, a wealthy heiress and billionaire CEO who never had to lift a finger, managing deals worth hundreds of millions. It felt like a crime to let her touch a frying pan. That is why, all these years, I had handled every single meal, never letting her get a speck of grease on herself. But now, watching her actually cooking, seemingly making soup, my jaw almost hit the floor. For a second, I wondered if she had been possessed. But I had to admit, seeing her so focused in the kitchen softened her usual icy demeanor. Her expression was relaxed, a gentle smile on her lips, and she seemed to radiate a warm, peaceful energy. It is true what they say, a woman is never more beautiful than when she is focused. She must have heard me, because she turned and saw me standing there, like a stunned block of wood, staring with wide eyes. After a moment of surprise, a soft smile appeared on her face. "You're awake." "Awake," I mumbled, my face turning red and feeling completely awkward. "Or are you making soup?" "It is almost ready. Give me a minute." I nodded slowly, but my feet felt glued to the floor. I could not move, could not leave. Finally, I scratched my neck and asked, "Do you need any help?" "No. It is nearly finished." "All right, I will grab the bowls." A little while later, I was sitting at the table, drinking the bird's nest soup she had served me herself. I still had a dazed expression on my face. The soup tasted average, but that was to be expected. She was a total beginner, probably following some basic online video. Still, I savored every single drop. A meal cooked personally by a gorgeous, billionaire CEO is not something everyday people get to experience. With that status boost, the soup actually tasted incredible. As I drank, I could not help but steal a glance at the stunning woman sitting across from me. Since I had already spoken my mind last night, I decided to be direct and lay my cards on the table. Miss Sterling, I will be moving out after breakfast. Chloe did not even look up. She had barely touched her soup, probably because she did not like the taste, and was now scrolling through business news on her phone. Seeing her silence, I pressed on. I have already contacted an agent to find an apartment near the studio. I should be moved out in a few days. At this, she suddenly looked up, her gaze icy. In these past 5 years, have I ever treated you poorly? I quickly reply, Miss Sterling, you have taken wonderful care of me. You gave me $5 million, let me live here for free without paying a single dime for groceries, and even gave me birthday gifts. I remember everything. If that is the case, why are you so desperate to leave? Her eyes grew even colder. I opened my mouth, staring at her in disbelief. She, of all people, knew exactly why I was rushing to escape. Wasn't it because I did not want to stand between her and her childhood sweetheart? Without the liquid courage, though, I kept those words to myself. I froze, unsure of what to say. Is it because of Julian? Chloe asked, cornering me. I was completely speechless. She already knew, so why play these games? Miss Sterling, I have thought about this deeply, I said, looking her in the eye. Your secretary, Sarah, told me you only hired me to make your boyfriend jealous. Now that he is back, this arrangement is pointless. If I stay here, it will only cause problems with your partner. It is better for everyone if I walk away now. Don't you agree? Of course, I will not rip you off. I will return the money for the remaining month as soon as possible. Chloe pressed her lips into a tight line, remaining silent. I let out a quiet sigh of relief, assuming she had taken my words to heart. It seemed like I could finally wrap this up today. From now on, we would walk different paths, completely even. Maybe this was the best outcome for everyone. I quietly stood up, went to wash the dishes, and then prepared to head to my room to pack. Just as I turned, her icy voice sliced through the room. Take one more step and see what happens. I am a businesswoman. Since I paid you, you must fulfill your end of the deal. You are not going anywhere until our time is up. Do not mention that money to me. I am not short on cash. You will stay right here until the contract ends. If you dare to leave, just try it. My body went stiff. I watched blankly as she grabbed her purse, slammed the front door, and left. A bitter taste filled my mouth. I wanted to yell after her. Maybe you should see a doctor. Having such a twisted control hobby is a sickness. Did she honestly have to keep me trapped here for some weird sense of amusement? I felt as if with all my energy drained, I collapsed onto the sofa. It took forever to let out a tired sigh. Whatever. It was just a month. I'd grit my teeth and get through it. Since I was staying, I stopped stressing about moving. My biggest worry now was making money. Mr. Peterson needed 3 monthly rounds of targeted therapy, which cost $600,000. To me, that was an impossible fortune. I wondered how Jessica was doing and went to call her, but she beat me to it. Ethan, get to Sterling Tower. Right now, there is a massive opportunity, and I am on my way. My mood soared. I quickly did my hair, threw on a smart casual outfit, and flagged a taxi to Sterling Tower. The moment I stepped out of the cab, I spotted Jessica waiting by the entrance, looking stunning. She rushed over. I'll make this quick. You know the perfumed concubine, right? I nodded. It was a massive production with over $200 million in backing and a star-studded cast. The female lead was none other than the mega-popular actress Isabella Rossellini, alongside several legendary veteran actors. A top network had snagged the broadcast rights early on, and industry whispers had been teasing massive auditions for weeks. But as a struggling, small-time actor, I could only dream of landing a role in a massive production like this. Unless it completely bombed, even a minor supporting character with some flair could spark a career breakthrough. Every major agency was pulling out all the stops to get their actors cast. I was only with Jessica's small studio, leaving me with limited resources and zero confidence to compete. Originally, the third male lead went to Daniel over at Rock Solid Entertainment, Jessica said. But he had some terrible luck. He rushed in for an emergency appendectomy 2 days ago. She smiled. I talked my throat dry to snatch this audition from Rock Solid, but it is just an audition. Whether you get it or not depends on you. I was ecstatic. The third male lead. At my level, I shouldn't even be in the room. Jessica had already done a miracle for me. Jessica, I'll give it everything I've got. She looked at me and smiled warmly. Of course, I believe in you. It's just a shame it's so sudden. The audition is coming up fast, so start reading. My slot was set for 2:30 p.m., leaving me barely over 5 hours. I couldn't afford to waste a single second. I devoured the pages the moment they were in my hands. Suddenly, right as I got lost in the role, a shocked voice snapped me out of it. I looked up and locked eyes with Julian, whose face was a mix of pure shock and anger. Instantly, a wave of disgust washed over me. I ignored him, simply lowering my gaze. I stared back down at my script. Are you actually here to audition? Julian scowled, looking at the papers as if a nobody like me had no business being in the same room. Mr. Vance, what I do here is none of your business. His arrogant tone made my skin crawl, but he just sneered, calling me a two-faced troublemaker. He barked, asking if I remembered my promise at the coffee shop. You swore you'd move out, yet you're clinging to her like glue again. Have you no shame? Hearing this, I felt more annoyed than angry. How did Julian know I'd moved back so fast? Chloe must have run and told him. I couldn't wrap my head around what she was trying to pull. On one hand, she practically forced me to stay, but on the other, she was playing games with her old flame. What was her angle? For the first time, I felt resentment toward Chloe. Even if I was just her hired help taking her cash, she had no right to stomp all over my pride like this. Mr. Vance, are you sure you're lecturing the right guy? I asked. Do you think I could have stepped foot back in that house without Chloe's blessing? Watching him freeze, I pressed on. Instead of picking fights with me, go talk to her. If she agrees, I'll pack up and leave instantly. Julian's face darkened. You need to remember your place, orphan. You are just a charity case trying to claw your way onto a wealthy heiress. He sneered. Don't be so delusional. Chloe only keeps you around because she feels sorry for you. You don't actually think she likes you, do you? Stay away. If you keep chasing her, I'll ruin you so thoroughly you won't even survive in Chicago. He smirked, his eyes dripping with malice. You want this gig, don't you? Do you know who funded it? Chloe is the main investor, and she only poured money in because I wanted the lead role. I don't care how you got this audition, but one quick call to her and you are blacklisted. Even if you nail it, try me. Without waiting for an answer, he swaggered off. I sat there in a daze, my mind racing as my confidence began to crumble. Ethan Hayes, you're up for the audition. An assistant called out. Stepping into the room, I shook myself out of my panic. Deep down, I knew Julian wasn't bluffing. One word from him, and Chloe would probably throw me off the project. Yet, a tiny part of me clung to a shred of hope. I desperately needed the money, and this was my shot, even if my chances were slim. Even if there was only a 1 in 10,000 chance, I had to try. I followed her inside and faced the 3 casting directors sitting before me. My chest tightened, my heart pounding with nerves. In the center sat a bearded man, Mr. Nolan, a legendary TV director with dozens of massive hits under his belt. He was the mastermind behind this show. To his left sat a woman in her late 20s, wearing a breathtaking gown. She was elegant, striking, and incredibly beautiful. Iconicalist actress Isabella Rossellini. To his right sat the legendary veteran actor, Mr. Morgan, an industry titan who had starred in countless beloved classics. Hello, Director Nolan, Mr. Morgan. Miss Rossi, I said, offering a respectful bow. Ethan Hayes, right, please, take a seat, Mr. Morgan said warmly. We'd love to hear your take on the character first. I nodded, sat up tall, and began. I see Adrian S., an incredibly complex figure. He isn't static. His entire journey can be mapped across 3 distinct phases, early, middle, and late. I spoke passionately for over 10 minutes, before wrapping up, and that's my basic take on him. Isabella's eyes sparkled with clear admiration. "It is obvious you have done some serious homework on this character," she said. Since the third lead shared many scenes with her, she was highly invested. Dozens had already auditioned today, including some major names, but none of them seemed to grasp Adrian like I did. "Thank you so much, Miss Rossi," I reply, feeling slightly embarrassed. I just happen to have an excellent memory and a lifelong habit of dissecting characters to understand their core motivations. "Ethan, research is wonderful, but for an actor, the performance is what truly matters," Isabella said with a warm smile. "While your grasp of the script is impressive, the ultimate decision relies on your performance. Next, I want to personally run a scene with you. You remember the palace abduction scene, right? That is the one. Are you ready?" "Of course," I replied instantly. This was the definitive scene for Adrian. He is an imperial general who falls hand over heels for the female lead the moment he lays eyes on her. She is a time-traveling palace maid, and his devotion is absolute. To rescue her, he breaks royal decrees, rallies the guard to raid a duke's estate, and thrashes the duke's spoiled son within an inch of his life. He is the ultimate fiercely loyal protector, ready to throw away his entire life for her. But since this was the perfumed concubine, no amount of devotion could rewrite his fate. The heroine ultimately chooses the crown prince, making this tense abduction scene the heartbreaking emotional climax of Adrian's entire storyline. After years of hopeless devotion, this was his breaking point. It was incredibly dramatic and brutal to execute. Standing face to face with Isabella, she began, "Alera, tell me, did the prince force you? How could you marry him?" I growled, my voice thick with emotion. My face twitched as a flood of grief, anger, and absolute despair poured from my eyes. Mr. Nolan and Mr. Morgan sat up straighter. They could tell I had something raw. My emotions felt natural, perfectly pitched, without any hint of cheap acting. My delivery was packed with emotion, my pronunciation sharp, and my voice had this magnetic, captivating pull. Isabella paused, clearly taken aback, before she quickly recovered. "I am sorry," she said. "I do not know what I did to give you the wrong impression. I have always seen you as a brother, a brother." "No, I do not want to be your brother," I gasped, looking frantic and lost. On impulse, I grabbed Isabella's hand. "Alera, I love you. I would give up everything for you. The prince must have threatened you. Let me take you away. We will run away to a place where no one knows us." A desperate plea filled my eyes, and my body began to tremble uncontrollably. "Adrian, you are hurting me," she gasped. "The prince did not threaten me. I am marrying him. I am marrying him of my own free will. Adrian, I am grateful for your love, but you are just a brother to me. The prince is the only one I love. I know this hurts, but I do not want you to keep making this mistake. A brother, so, all this time, I was just a brother." I laughed madly, tears instantly spilling down my cheeks. My eyes grew bloodshot and watery. Mr. Nolan and Mr. Morgan stared at me with bated breath, entirely captivated by the raw emotion of my performance. Suddenly, hands began clapping. Applause quickly filled the room. "Bravo, that was excellent." Isabella discreetly wiped a stray tear from her cheek and smiled warmly at me. "Ethan, you were amazing. I almost could not keep up with you. Have you really never done a major production?" "Mostly just small roles in web series," I answered honestly. Mr. Nolan nodded in agreement. "Young man, you have a real gift. Your emotional shifts were incredibly natural, never forced or overdone. The feelings were so intense, especially when you cry. That was outstanding." Mr. Morgan smiled warmly too. "Keep it up, son. Young actors today are far too restless, chasing quick paydays instead of honing their craft. A pretty face only goes so far, but I think you have what it takes. Keep working hard, and you will thrive." Flattered, I smiled. "Thank you all for the encouragement. Go home now, young man, and get ready. Unless something unexpected happens, this role is yours." Mr. Nolan rarely decided on the spot due to industry politics, but my audition had completely won him over. He saw that I had the looks, a lead acting talent, and incredible delivery. A gifted newcomer like me only needed a solid push to break out and find real fame. He was happy to help me, believing my humble nature meant that I would remember his kindness once I hit the big time. "Thank you, Director Nolan. Thank you so much. And thank you, Mr. Morgan, Miss Rossi. I showed just enough excitement before stepping out. Once outside, I couldn't contain myself and pumped my fist. This role meant a massive paycheck. $3 million. If this role put me on the map, I would never have to worry about finding acting work again. This gig was absolutely crucial for my career. It wasn't just about paying for Mr. Peterson's medical treatment, it was about my future. Ethan. Just as I was about to call Jessica, a voice called out behind me. I spun around, shocked to see Isabella. She offered a warm smile. Let us swap numbers. We have some time before filming begins, so we can practice and perfect our characters. My mind went totally blank, and a list star like Isabella was asking for my number. Feeling incredibly flattered, I quickly pulled out my phone and added her on iMessage. Miss Rossi, I look forward to working with you. She looked at me and smiled. Do not call me Miss Rossi. I am not that old. Just call me Isabella. I have to run now, but let's chat on iMessage later. Take care, Miss Rossi. My face flushed as she gave me a look. Take care, Isabella. She giggled and walked away gracefully. I headed to the waiting room to find Jessica. Director Nolan made his choice. He is giving you the role, Jessica said, shocked. That is exactly what he said. That is amazing. Ethan, I knew you could do it. Jessica hugged me tightly. This role is going to make you famous. Then I can ride your coattails. I flushed, feeling a bit awkward. Realizing she had crossed a line, Jessica quickly let go. Seeing my face turning bright red, she laughed. You are a married man and still so shy. Come on. Let us celebrate. Dinner is on me. Jessica chose a high-end steakhouse right in the city center. Once we ordered, Jessica said, filming for this show starts early next month, so you have about 2 weeks to prepare. With your acting talent, it should be easy, but do not slack off. I actually arranged to meet Isabella to go over the script. What? Isabella, as in Isabella Rossi? Jessica's eyes went wide, as if seeing a ghost. You call her Isabella, and you are meeting her to practice. She might seem friendly, but everyone knows she is incredibly hard to get close to. Jessica had been around. She had heard the rumors. Isabella came from massive wealth, had a fierce temper, and had even publicly slapped directors and powerful investors who tried to make a move on her. She was a superstar on screen and a queen in real life. Yet this powerful, wealthy woman was going to discuss the script with a total newcomer like me. Is there an issue with that? I asked, completely confused. No, Jessica replied, staring at me with a complicated look, quietly wondering what Isabella was really up to. She probably thought Isabella claimed to hate men but was secretly just like everyone else. Halfway through our steak dinner, however, two familiar faces walked in and headed right toward us. The pair instantly drew everyone's eyes. It was Chloe and her first love, Julian. Chloe, let us take that window table, Julian said, offering her a warm smile. Ever since his return, he had repeatedly invited Chloe out alone, but she always made excuses to avoid him. Still, he knew that she was just a bit slow to warm up to people. After so many years apart, there was still a clear sense of unfamiliarity between them. But he believed that if he pursued her as passionately as in college, he would eventually win her over. So he played the long game, sending her flowers every morning and evening, delivering breakfast, and constantly checking in on her via iMessage. That afternoon, he tentatively invited her out. She actually agreed. Julian was still riding that wave of excitement, convinced he finally had a real shot at winning her back. But the table he chose was right next to mine. Chloe sat with her back to me, while Julian faced me directly. Our eyes met, and we both froze. Then, a smug, malicious grin spread across his face. Chloe, thank you so much for backing that show, Julian said. You know I am just an illegitimate son. I have no status, and the family never supports me. Without your investment, I never would have landed the lead role. It is nothing, Chloe replied. Helping you is one thing, but our team also saw it as a smart investment. Chloe, remember college? You promised you would make me a star, Julian said, his eyes filled with fake affection. If you had not used your family's power back then, I never would have achieved anything. 5 years ago, I foolishly walked away from you. Sarah told me you were heartbroken. Honestly, I have missed you so much since then. Past few years, I really regret my impulsive decision back then. I never imagined you would still help me, Chloe. You were too good to me." Chloe paused. "Don't sell yourself short. Your success today is also because of your own hard work." I had no desire to listen to them pour their hearts out, but our tables were so close that I could not help but overhear. My anxiety started to build. So Chloe could speak gently. It was just that her warmth was reserved solely for Julian. Around me, she was always arrogant and aloof. Perhaps that was the stark difference between how she treated a mere employee versus a lover. Listening to their intimate banter, my eyes glazed over. The delicious steak in front of me tasted like cardboard. "By the way, Chloe, what about that favor I asked?" Julian inquired. "He is just a rookie. I doubt he can handle the third male lead. You invested in this show for me, and I absolutely cannot let some bad actor ruin our project." "I have already spoken to director Nolan," Chloe replied softly. Hearing those words, my vision went blurry and a cold shiver ran down my spine. "Ethan, is everything okay?" Jessica asked, noticing my sudden panic. I stood up, completely shaken. "Jessica, I do not feel well. Let us leave right now." "Oh, all right. Let us get going." Seeing how pale I looked, Jessica quickly stood up to walk out with me. "Ethan, are you dining here too?" Julian called out, acting completely surprised to see me. The moment those words left his mouth, Chloe whipped her head around and saw Jessica and me about to escape. Her eyes locked onto my face before slowly shifting over to Jessica. Even though Jessica was over 30, she had striking, classic features. Combined with her elegant makeup, she looked incredibly graceful, gentle, and attractive enough to turn any man's head. Throughout the year I had spent working alongside Jessica, she had dropped me off at my gate many times, but she had never actually met Chloe. I never mentioned Chloe, so she had no idea who she was. Right now, Jessica just felt uneasy. She could sense a subtle undercurrent of hostility in the woman's eyes. I ignored Chloe's sharp, questioning gaze and did not say a word. I just turned to escape this dangerous, deadly trap. I used to think I knew Chloe so well, believing she was a warm, kind soul. Now, she felt like an absolute stranger to me. It was deeply unsettling, and so heartless that it chilled me to the bone. This acting gig was my only shot at saving myself, the funds I desperately needed for Mr. Peterson's therapy. Now, she had ruined it with one sentence. Her sole purpose was to please her first love. I have never tried to assume the worst in people. Even when my adoptive mother, Brenda, treated me terribly, I did not hate her. I tried to focus on her good side. Yet when I needed a lifeline, the woman I trusted most ruthlessly crushed my last hope. "Ethan, stop," Chloe commanded coldly. I froze in my tracks, stopped, and slowly turned to face her, revealing my bloodshot, weary eyes. I clenched my fists, digging my nails into my palms to keep my composure. But a bitter thought crossed my mind. What right did I have to blame her? She was the investor. It was her right to cast whomever she pleased. She owed me nothing. Julian was the one she truly loved. Was it not natural to sacrifice my role to please him? Chloe locked eyes with my bloodshot stare, looking momentarily stunned. For as long as she had known me, the version of me she remembered was always a kind, gentle soul with a constant, warm smile on his face. Just seeing him seemed to make her daily worries disappear. Though she was reluctant to admit it, she cherished our quiet moments together. While she worked in her study, I would be busy cooking or cleaning, humming a soft tune. Even without talking, just knowing I was there and feeling my quiet presence brought her a deep, comforting sense of peace. In all our years together, she had never seen such raw despair in my eyes. It was a look that felt completely shattered and heartbroken. Her chest tightened slightly, and her voice softened. "Ethan, Julian and I are only discussing business. Come join us." Actually, the only reason she had agreed to meet Julian today was because his relentless daily deliveries of flowers and breakfast had become an absolute nightmare. Many colleagues knew she was married, and Julian's relentless pursuit was sparking nasty rumors at the office. She wanted to use this opportunity to have a serious talk with him, but she never expected to run into me. Ordinarily, her proud, aloof nature would make explaining herself feel beneath her, but seeing my broken state, Chloe uncharacteristically offered a defense. "No need, Miss Sterling, we are already done. If that is all, I will be leaving now.